This is From Now On. I'm Lisa Phillips. Just a heads up, this episode contains discussions of narcissistic abuse, which includes psychological, financial, and emotional abuse. Some may find it upsetting. We encourage you to take care of yourself. Hey there, and welcome. Today I want to have a heart-to-heart about something that's as important as it is difficult to talk about: domestic violence in the NFL. If you're here because this issue hits close to home, because you're in a relationship where power, control, or abuse feels suffocating, I want you to know that this space is for you. You're not alone, and we're going to navigate this together. Let's start with some shocking numbers that paint a very real and troubling picture. Arrest rates. A 2014 analysis by 538 revealed something surprising. NFL players as a group have a lower overall arrest rate than the general population. But when it comes to domestic violence, the arrest rate is significantly higher. Domestic violence makes up 48% of violent crimes arrest among NFL players, compared to just 21% nationally. Conviction rates. Research from Middlesex University looked at 117 cases of NFL players arrested for violence against women between 2000 and 2019. Out of those 117 arrests, only 21 players were convicted, a shockingly low 17.9% conviction rate. To put that in perspective, even the most conservative estimate of domestic and sexual violence convictions in the U.S. are higher. CTE and aggression. Here's another layer to the story. A 2021 study by Boston University found signs of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, in 99% of 202 NFL players studied. CTE is a brain condition linked to repeated head trauma, and it's associated with increased aggression. About 34% of people with CTE exhibit aggressive behaviors, which might contribute to the higher rates of domestic violence we see among NFL players. So why does this matter? These numbers aren't just statistics. They represent real women, real pain, and real lives impacted by violence and silence. They also point to a system that protects players at the expense of victims. When almost half of the violent crime arrests among NFL players are for domestic violence, and when fewer than 20% of those cases result in convictions, it's clear something is deeply broken. Add this to the potential role of CTE, and we're looking at a tangled web of physical damage, unchecked aggression, and institutional failure. But while understanding the why behind the issue is important, my focus today is you, the woman who might be living in this reality right now, wondering how to find a way out. So I want to speak directly to the woman who's listening and hurting. I can only imagine how overwhelming it must feel to be caught in a relationship where abuse, whether physical, emotional, or financial, is part of your everyday life. Maybe you feel trapped by his fame, his money, or the fear of what he'll do if you try to leave. If that's you, I need you to hear this. You deserve safety, you deserve freedom, and you deserve love that lifts you up and not breaks you down. Here are some steps to consider when you're ready to start moving forward. Reach out for help. You don't have to face this alone. Organizations like the National Domestic Violence Hotline are there for you 24/7. They can help you create a safety plan tailored for your situation and educate yourself about CTE. Understanding CTE and its potential link to aggressive behavior doesn't excuse abuse, but it might help you see that violence isn't your fault. This is about him, not you. Then secure your finances. If financial control is being used against you, try to quietly take steps to gain independence. This might include opening a private account, speaking with a financial advisor, or reaching out to nonprofit organizations that provide free support for women in abusive relationships. And most important, know your worth. No matter how big his paycheck is, or how bright his spotlight is, he doesn't define you. You are more than someone's partner. You are strong, valuable, and worthy of a life where you feel loved and safe. If you're listening and thinking, I'm not ready to leave yet, that's okay. Leaving is a process, and it's one you'll do on your own time. What matters most is knowing that it's possible. Change might feel out of reach right now, but it starts with small steps, and there are people and resources ready to walk alongside you. For anyone who feels like their voice doesn't matter, let me tell you this. The system might be broken, but your voice is powerful. When you're ready to use it, whether that's to share your story or to simply say, I deserve better, you'll find strength you didn't know you had yet. These statistics about domestic violence in the NFL are heartbreaking, but they also remind us why conversations like this matter. Together, we can push for change. Together, we can demand accountability from institutions that have let victims down. And together, we can create a world where abuse, no matter who's committing it, is no longer tolerated. To anyone listening who's hurting, you are not alone. And to anyone who's wondering if they'll ever find peace, I promise you this. Hope is real. Help is here. Let's take the first step forward together. Today's guest is a mom and business owner and the creator of the TikTok series called Who the Fuck Did I Almost Marry? NFL Edition. She tells a harrowing 40-part story of her relationship with a former NFL star and the journey of getting out of the abusive relationship. She was vulnerable and informative in detailing her story, so I wanted to have her on today to talk more about the nuances of her healing journey. I am so grateful today to welcome Tori Darling to From Now On. Welcome, Tori.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So happy you're here.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So this year you went on TikTok and you started a series, 43 videos, I believe.
It was a bunch.
It was a bunch, yeah. But it was called Who the F Did I Almost Marry? NFL Edition.
Yeah.
If anyone hasn't seen this series, you have to go see it because it's just riveting. I literally had to grab some popcorn and continue the series and getting more and more upset. I was watching it and really feeling for you because I've been through a similar situation. So tell me, what made you go on TikTok and go public and talk about this story?
Yeah. Well, I always knew that at some point I would tell my story. And I was a huge TikTok fan. I've always been really big into it. And then when Risa Tisa did her series, I was like, wow, that is such a great way to spell out a story and do it in a way where it's in these bite-sized pieces where people can really digest it. So I'm thankful that she did it because it was a way for me to kind of be like, wow, this is a great way and a great platform for me to be able to put it out. I like that TikTok is a little bit more real. And I feel, just stories like that tend to go a little bit better.
Yeah, you can
TikTok.
really show your authenticity. People can relate to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I love TikTok for that reason. So can you just give me a little bit of the Cliff Notes, the short version, if you can, of
my goodness,
of kind of what happened?
Yeah. So basically a guy that I went to high school with ended up being in the NFL, and we ended up divorced around the same time, ended up in a relationship. Obviously it was going well, ended up deciding to have a child. He was promising marriage. And yeah, we ended up in Missouri where he was living, and things quickly just fell apart, and just all kinds of abuse, not physical, but everything else. And just ended up cheating. The abuse got worse, and I ended up being able to get free.
So in retrospect, did you feel like your ex had targeted you in the beginning?
I definitely feel that he targeted me in the sense that I'm empathetic and I'm kind. And I do think narcissists as a whole, that they target good-hearted, kind people. And that's what they are looking for. I think it kind of helps how they groom people into accepting the abuse. And so, yeah, I definitely feel targeted in that kind of sense.
Yeah, because obviously there's parts of him that were really good and you really admired in him. And and with the bad was also probably lots of good.
Yeah. And I think that's the weirdest thing for these kinds of relationships, because they do have these good sides. They're not abusers 100% of the time. And I think that's what makes some of the abuse that much harder, because you don't know what you're going to get that day.
Right.
You don't know if you're going to get the good person, the bad person, somewhere in between. And yeah, I think it kind of all adds to the abusive situation.
So was he already in the NFL when you met him?
Well, since we had gone to high school together, I had already known him. And so he had been in the NFL for 12 years. When we had started talking, he was in his last year of the NFL.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then by the time we were together, he had just completed that season.
So how did you meet? Again, not since high school, but
yeah. Well, we had been Facebook friends.
Okay.
And so he just started reaching out and hitting me up that way. And I had a photography business back in the day. And so, you know, he's trying to, well, hey, do you want to come take pictures of my kids? And by that time I didn't have the business anymore. So I was just like, no. So trying different ways like that. And then he had randomly come into town.
Right.
Because at that point I still had lived in our high school hometown and got together, and sparks flew. And that kind of was the kickoff for us being a little bit more, I guess, intentional in our conversations rather than just friends.
Did you have a crush on him in high school?
Actually, I didn't.
No,
I had a long-term boyfriend in high school. So yeah.
So you were just friends?
Yeah, we were just friends.
Or knew of him? Yeah,
we were in the same circles. We have a ton of mutual friends. Our high school was huge. So yeah, but yeah, I didn't have a crush on him, but I think everybody always thought of him as just this really happy guy. I remember him in the hallways. It was just, he always had this line where he was like, hey, I know you. And, you know, it would make people laugh and smile. And he's just a very gregarious.
Charming.
Yeah, no, definitely charming.
Yeah. So those are probably the things that you fell in love with him.
Absolutely.
You know, right?
Yeah.
And you were planning on getting married to him. And
absolutely. Yeah. And I think I felt a little bit disarmed because we did have so many mutual friends and everybody thought that he was a really great guy. So it definitely helped. So you feel secure.
Right. Yeah, of course. Of course. When everybody else is praising him and looking up to him, he's in the NFL and he's like, you know, charming and amazing.
Definitely.
It kind of, you know, screws with you because it's like, wait a second, everybody else thinks he's a great guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe these things I'm noticing aren't, you know, red flags, or maybe, you know.
Yeah, it definitely makes you view things in a different way. And also the way that he would speak, it really disarmed you because he comes off as very humble. Like somebody would give him a compliment and he would make self-deprecating comments back. And so it's like, wow, like this guy is like really humble and, you know, not what you would expect as a stereotypical, you know, overinflated ego athlete. He came off as very different, just a very down to earth, you know, good, humble guy. And I think it was disarming because I don't like ego. And so I found that.
Same here. I don't like guys with big egos either.
Yeah. So I found that very just, I guess, disarming and just all these, I found them as good signs.
Right, exactly. And they probably know that or picked up on that about you.
Absolutely.
So that's probably the mask he was wearing for a long time.
I figured out at the end that he actually used those self-deprecating comments to actually inadvertently boost his ego. So
so you would compliment him.
Exactly.
Right.
It would induce comments back and it would boost up his ego. So he was still getting his ego fed, but he was doing it in a very roundabout way.
Right. It's sneaky.
Yeah, it is icky to look back and see, you know, the actual mechanism and how that was working. And yeah, it's gross.
So tell me, when did you first like see a major red flag where you were like, wait a second, what have I got myself into?
Yeah. It was probably after we had moved to St. Louis. That was really when the very first like, oh crap moments that I was having.
Oh, so once he trapped you because he had you at that point. Yeah.
Exactly. It was him. You know, we all have our love languages and my biggest one is words of affirmation. And so just being told that I'm loved and cared for and, you know, those things are just really important for me. And I had started to begin to notice that he wasn't saying that he loved me. And so I went to him and was like, hey, you know, this is really something that I need to feel loved. And instead of doing better, he didn't tell me for 2 years that he loved me. And so, you know, because most people, when you're in a relationship,
you voice that to him.
Yeah. And most people are like, oh, wow, like I'm going to do better. I'm going to, I'm going to try harder.
I love you every day. It's not that hard.
Yeah. I want you to feel loved. Like that's, you know, more of the normal, natural thing. And for him,
he left you craving for it, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like waiting for it when he's going to say it to me.
Yeah.
So would he show he loved you in other ways, like his love language?
I don't really think so. I mean, because that's such a big one for me. And so I just, you know, and so here I am just kind of high and dry, just not feeling loved, not feeling fulfilled. And that was very, very, very difficult for me to grasp because, you know, shortly after we had moved to St. Louis, I had our son. And so, you know, I've got this newborn with him and, you know, me and my children, we had moved here, we had sacrificed, you know, all of this stuff. And so to be there and be in that situation and see that, because it was the first like, wow, it was wow, what did I get myself into?
Oh, for sure. Your heart's not being taken care of at all. And you're voicing, this is what I need. And they can't even step up and do that.
It's something so simple and basic.
And I know how you feel about that, because mine's words of affirmation, like I desperately have to have that with somebody that I'm with, even like with friends and things like that. I need to know, I'm loved, or that I feel worthy,
Yeah, it's such a big deal.
Yeah, it's such a big deal to me. And I've also voiced that and never got it either. So I know how you feel.
And it's so soul crushing. It's soul crushing. It's devastating when
you don't feel loved.
You don't. And it's something so simple. That's something that your partner could do for you. And again, if they wanted to, they would. And when they're not, it's such a glaring, like, wow, this is not great.
Talk a little bit about psychological abuse, because when I was watching your videos, I kept thinking that's a lot of what he was doing to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it started very, very slowly. And I think that's typically how abusers work. It's not just this all of a sudden, like, hey, I'm being abusive. It's, it's just this very slow, methodical push. And, it was crazy how just gentle it had kind of worked its way in. So the very first way that I noticed that he was doing it was after we had moved. And obviously, since I have previous children, I had to do a whole court battle to be granted by the courts to be able to move. And I had just finished, I finished one of my nursing degrees when I was down in Panama City. And one of the big questions that the court was asking was, what are your intentions with your education? Right. And same with him, what are your intentions? And, what are you going to do if this relationship doesn't work out? But it was there was a lot of focus on that kind of thing. And, my thoughts going into that was, I'll move there. I'll have the support of my partner. Right. I'll be able to finish nursing school. And once I got to St. Louis, I very quickly realized, my life there was so busy. He had 3 kids from a previous marriage. I had 3 kids from a previous marriage. And so we've got all of these kids with all of these activities. Oh, gosh, I've got a newborn where I'm running them around like crazy. We're going pickups and drop-offs at 3 different schools, because we're on the bus route.
It's overwhelming.
So it is very overwhelming. You're carting around a baby while you're trying to do all of this. Plus, we did not have a housekeeper. We did not have a nanny. We didn't have any of those things that, the luxuries that people assume that you have when you're in a relationship with somebody who has, a career like that. And, so all of those kinds of things were falling on me. And he was out of town easily, a third to half of the time. Wow. And so
you're all on your own.
Absolutely.
Taking care of everything.
Yeah. And so there was no time to do that. And I very quickly realized that he was bringing so much chaos and so much busyness in my life that it really disabled me to be able to do those things. And I would say probably about, maybe 4 to 6 months in after we had moved, it was, well, why are you not living up to your end of the bargain? I was being heavily gaslit on why I wasn't doing the things that we had previously discussed. And it's like,
what? Like you're doing everything.
Can't.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to fit this in? And it became this whole just very gaslighting, very psychologically abusive, where, you start to question, am I, just not being enough? Am I, I feel like I'm being enough. I feel like I'm ticking all of these boxes, and
of course, because you want to make them happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to make this family unit. And, that was the very first one that was like, wow, this, something's not quite right, but I couldn't pinpoint it because it was so like almost insidious and kind of under the radar that I didn't even realize that it was
he's trying to break you down.
Absolutely. And bringing so much chaos that, you just don't even know which way is really up at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. So did you get to finish your nursing degree? Or?
I didn't.
Yeah.
There was no time. And even now, there's just no way. So just, one of those things that it's just kind of a shame, but yeah, what do you do?
Right. Okay. So at this time, you have 2 kids now together.
We do. We do. We ended up having another one. They're about 3.5 years apart.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about the emotional abuse. So it's different from psychological.
Yes.
Right.
I think one of the biggest one in that vein was definitely not being told that I was loved. I think that was such...
Yeah, it's emotional.
It was such a painful aspect of it when you are running around and you're doing all of these things, literally sacrificing your life for, you know, your own goals.
Right.
And then still being told that that's not enough, that you should still be doing more.
Oh, yeah.
That was very, very hard.
So he's expecting you to do it, but what is he doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. And to this day, I will never know what is reality, what is the truth, because later on I ended up snooping, and the amount of lies, like I will never know exactly, like, was it a business trip?
Right. Of course.
I have no clue.
Well, yeah. Cause in the beginning you were like,
I was
trusting everything.
Absolutely.
Course,
because
that's why he chose you, because you're so trustful of everything that's going on.
So I was taking what he was saying as truth. And, you know.
So when did that switch then? Was that the episode when you found the phone? And
yeah, definitely.
What happened with that?
Yeah. So I had kind of noticed that things were a little bit off.
Okay.
He had
that intuition was kicking in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, after he retired, he had gotten some of his financial series licenses and whatnot. And he was dabbling in that kind of realm. And he had gotten a new job. And he said he had a month-long business trip with this new job. And again, I have no idea what's true. Okay, sure. Yeah, what's not. And, you know, most guys, when they come back from even, you know, a handful of days trip, let alone a whole month, he didn't want to touch me, you know, didn't want to initiate.
After a whole month away?
Yeah, after a whole month away. And he gave me some excuses, and it didn't sit right with me, you know, because it was just kind of like, this is so weird. This is so abnormal. This is just not sitting well.
Right.
And so that was about April of that year. And so anyhow, some crazy stuff had gone down with my ex-husband and the children. And I had to file some emergency custody stuff. And we were down in Panama City for a hearing. And my phone wasn't working. I could use the phone, but for some reason I couldn't hear any sound.
Okay.
So the actual phone call part of my phone was broken.
Right.
And for some reason we were in two different vehicles. He was in a rental. I was in our car. And, you know, he gave me his work phone, and he had obviously his regular phone. That way, if anything had happened in our travels, because we were heading to an event in Georgia, and anyhow, he's a very fast driver. Right. And I just let him kind of take off and do his thing. And I pulled over with my son, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity
to look through the phone.
Absolutely.
Of course, but it was a work phone. So
yeah,
you would think there would be nothing on it.
Yeah. And he'd only had this work phone for, I mean, maybe 2-3 months at this point, because he'd gotten it in, I guess, April-ish, and here we are, it was June. And so, and immediately I see a message where he had very clearly had a hookup with somebody.
Right. And so you were able to get into the phone. There was no password.
Well, he had given me the password. Because that way, if I needed to call him.
So there's stuff on the phone, but he gave you the password and left it with you?
Absolutely. I think he wanted me to see it.
Oh, gosh.
And so I immediately called him, and I was like, just furious. And I said, it's clear you've been cheating on me. And he was just like, well, I've only cheated with 2 people.
I've only cheated with 2 people.
Yeah. And so anyhow, I ended up hanging up on him.
That's supposed to be okay.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So I ended up hanging up, and I was like, I need to continue looking through this, and ended up finding the most insane and just craziness of what I had found. And it was
more than one.
It was more than one. And he ended up catching an STD during that month-long trip, and he was still on his antibiotics.
Oh, that's why he was saying no.
Yes, yeah, which was wild to piece together. Did not even tell me,
because you'd have to say he's cheating too.
Absolutely, yeah. So I had no clue, and so I felt very vulnerable and at risk. Obviously, you know, there was definitely an emergency call to my OBGYN to get an appointment to be like, whoa, I need to get checked, because this guy has clearly been out here using no protection with multiple people and has caught something. And so thankfully I was clean, but that's terrifying.
Of course. Yeah.
And so I took pictures of all of of his phone with all of these different women and even their phone numbers, because I wanted to reach out and let them know, look, because
yeah, he's married. Well, he's in a relationship for a long time.
Well, it wasn't even about that. I felt like, that they needed to know that if they had done anything with him, that they had the right, that they needed to know that they needed to check themselves out. And that really upset him, he found it very unnecessary. And, it was not about that. I felt like as a woman to woman.
You found it unnecessary.
Yes. I think because I had put him on blast to other people.
Well, of course. Yeah. Yeah. And then he knew if you reach out to them, he's not going to be able to go back to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, there were conversations in the work phone that weren't clear. There were like, I love yous, just some weird stuff where it wasn't clear if they had done anything. There was even one with a coworker where, he kept trying to get her to go back to his room, which I thought was really gross. Oh, it was very inappropriate and wild. And, but it wasn't clear cut if they had. And so, yeah, I guess he felt that I had kind of blown him up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But those women deserve to know.
But that's when they get angry, when you reveal that mask.
Absolutely. Because he didn't want to be revealed.
No, of course not.
Yeah. He wanted to keep it. I mean, just the level of
what was he expecting though? He handed you over
the work phone.
I know.
With the passcode. What do you expect? And so yeah, it's,
maybe he was realizing he was getting out of control.
I don't know. I do think because of what I was coming, I think that he knew I had to know in some way.
Yeah. He wasn't man enough to tell you.
Exactly. And I think that was his way of doing it. I mean, he had to know I was going to look through his phone. He had to have.
Yeah, of course.
Because what female?
No.
I think most females would.
Yeah, I guess.
Most
take a look.
Would absolutely take that opportunity.
Well, usually things are hidden or deleted.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't want to be found out, if he didn't want to be found out, he would have deleted everything or would have been on his personal phone, on his
I do
work
agree.
phone.
Yeah. And I do think certain things were deleted before the phone was handed over to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
no, for sure. I've had a guy hand me over the phone before and like everything is deleted. Like,
yeah.
For like the last couple of weeks. Like, come on.
Absolutely. And that's such a flag in itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because who has like a completely wiped no messages at all?
That's what I'm saying. They delete everything first. So
the
fact that he handed it over to you.
Yeah. And there was another text message. One of the most bizarre that was in there was a girl with no name attached. It was just a phone number. And, it wasn't clear that they had done anything. It sounded like she was ovulating and that kind of prevented them doing anything. And she was concerned about getting pregnant. And he was saying, well, I wouldn't mind if you would. And
seriously?
Yeah, seriously. And that was like, whoa, this is so shocking. Yeah. And
that's just his tactic to get her in bed. And, to make it feel like I'm really into you. It's okay.
I have no idea.
I'm planning this future.
Yeah.
In my head.
I don't know if it was that or if there's like more like a breeding fetish. I don't know.
Whatever, it's pretty sadistic.
It was very, very weird. And he was talking about how one of his friends had vials of his sperm for IVF. And so the whole thing was just so shocking because you would think being a partner of somebody that would be something that they would let you know that they have like a potential IVF child
out there somewhere. That's kind of a new thing going on right now. A lot of men are thinking like, let me just like knock up as many women as possible, have as many kids as I can.
Yeah, it's very Nick Cannon.
Yeah, very.
I don't know.
And a lot of athletes are like that too.
Yeah, I do think so.
They have a lot of like, isn't there one in the NFL that has like 20 kids?
I think so. I think he just had that child.
During my research, I saw that. I was like,
And I do think that there is something with narcissists in general where, they think they have superior genes and they, I guess, want to spread it around. I don't know. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but it's kind of fascinating not to actually be living this life.
No, not to be living it for sure.
Having the children everywhere. But it's wild stuff for sure.
Well, didn't you find out while you were pregnant, there was another woman pregnant at the same time?
Well, I had found out before. So that is why I thought that is why he wanted me to look through the phone, because she was pregnant during that time. And that's why when I had found out that there was the initial one person that he was saying that there were only two that he had cheated with, because he was including the one that was already pregnant.
Wow.
And so after this initial round of discovering, you know, this cheating, right, with this multiple people, there was probably about a month time period where he was refusing to tell me. There was somebody else, but he wasn't wanting to tell me who it was and why, or why were we withholding this information. And that in itself was very psychologically damaging, because
of course it is.
Yeah, it was.
He's not being upfront and honest with you and telling you, you're asking questions, and why isn't he telling you what's going on?
Yeah. And
he's kind of letting you know something's going on, but I won't give you the details. That's
absolutely.
That's infuriating, and it's so abusive.
Oh, it's super abusive. It's super abusive. And so obviously at the end,
kids together.
Yeah.
It's not like you just pick up and leave. It's like, we need to work this out.
No doubt. And I mean,
like, grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. And by that time I was already essentially trapped in this relationship.
I can see that.
Yeah. And so once I had found out about the cheating, I was like, look, I'm done. I don't do this. You know, and especially on that scale, and
on that
how,
scale of what he's doing.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he was out of control.
It was so out of control. And his behavior to the cheating was even probably more damaging than the actual cheating itself. When you know, you're being told, well, if you had been doing what you said that you were going to be doing,
it's all your fault.
Yes.
If you weren't taking care of things on your end.
Yeah. If you had gotten a job, if you had gone back to school, none of this would have even happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. And so to not take accountability and to be blaming me for such atrocious behavior was so sickening. And, you know,
while you're trying to do everything.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah. No
take
doubt.
care of him and love him.
Doing everything for him.
He had it made with you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, I mean, I literally was a housekeeper, a nanny, a cook, a chef, you know, at that point we had gotten a fixer-upper. I was doing renovations. I mean, it was insane, the amount of things that I was doing and giving this guy, and to be told I wasn't doing enough and being blamed for his cheating was so offensive. And and just all of his behavior during that time period, it kept reconfirming to me, like, whoa, I do not want this guy. Like, he is not taking accountability. He is not being responsible. He's in fact doing everything he can to not accept responsibility. And yeah, I mean, even the day I found out, his behavior was so atrocious towards me, because like I said, we were going to an event. And obviously I was like, I am not going to this event. I don't want to be in a room. I don't want to have to put on a happy face.
But you found out all that information before the event?
Yes. So he was immediately like, you know, if you don't pull over, he wanted to get things from the car. And if you don't pull over, I'm going to call the police on you and report the car is stolen, because it was in his name. And
oh, really? Just to get
just horrific stuff. And yeah, and that terrified me.
It's almost like he's so guilty of what he's doing, but he wants to keep hurting you.
Absolutely.
Like, he knows you just found out the information, but he's going to call the police on you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that kind of terrified me, because
I
had my baby in the car. Well, he wasn't a baby at that point. He was 2, but I don't want to be stranded in like rural Alabama with,
oh my gosh.
You know, just, so yeah, so that was bad. And then, you know, he was saying things like, you know, he wanted me to pay for his plane ticket home. And it was like, no, I'm not going to pay for your plane ticket home.
Are you serious?
This is all you're doing. I'm not going to pay for that. And then, you know, if you don't come to this event, I'm going to cancel your gym membership. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about your gym membership right now.
Who cares about all that stuff now? Like, I got to figure out my life now.
Absolutely.
That I'm with a cheater.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, seriously, that was the last of my concerns, was this gym membership, but it was everything and anything that he could do to control me in that moment. And even when I got home, he was doing things like pausing the Wi-Fi, and, you know, it was just this just insane inundation of psychological abuse.
That's crazy.
Yeah, during this month-long period while I was waiting to figure out what else was out there. What is this other person? Why is this information even being withheld?
It's like crazy making. He like almost wants you to go completely insane.
Yeah, and that's what my therapist called it. She said, this is completely crazy making. And I was like, yeah, that sums this up well.
He's a full-blown narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like textbook.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was so crazy. And so, yeah, like I said, I was completely done. And I had all these behaviors that were just really reinforcing why I should be done. And so,
well, you knew you should be done then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Point.
Yeah. It just, yeah, there was no doubt. I was
yeah,
like,
he's
I have
putting
to be
your
done.
health at risk.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And what about digital abuse?
Oh my goodness. Well,
how did your ex, control you with that?
Yeah. So like I said, he was pausing the Wi-Fi. And at the time, because, I was having all of this, well, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And so, we had so many funny things that went on in our family. We're just, other than all of this abuse, there were a lot of good times. There were a lot of laughs.
Yeah, I'm sure. Of course, there always is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so he has a farm and we didn't live at the farm. The farm's about an hour and a half away, but there were a lot of really funny things that happened at the farm. Like, there's a farm manager out there and we had chickens for a while, like this whole flock of chickens. And
so you're saying you took videos of this and you were posting them online, like on TikTok and stuff like that, doing fun stuff?
Not at TikTok, but it was more like Instagram, but just kind of showing like just some of the farm stuff life. And our family life and that kind of stuff. And so I was really trying to create kind of an online presence for us. And he had the farm business and whatnot. And it was going to just kind of tie everything together. And I had been working on that for multiple months, and that completely disabled me from growing any of that anymore.
By turning off the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, by turning off the Wi-Fi. I couldn't even edit pictures, disabling me from being able to grow.
This is so childish.
It is super childish, but it was anything and everything that he could do to control me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I liken from...
And piss you off.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so from this period forward, I often liken it to like trying to beat me into submission without physically laying hands on me. It was just this
trying to punish you
amount of it was psychological warfare on every level.
Yeah.
It was extremely hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have went crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot. The only saving grace from this time period is he was out of town probably half the time, and he holed himself away a lot of times down in the basement, and that was welcome. Because I just out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, absolutely.
What was the most surprising and frustrating way that he used financial abuse?
Oh my gosh. The way that he financially abused the most was, and this sounds weird, but was through gas. And I know that sounds strange.
Fuel?
Yes, fuel.
Yeah.
So the vehicle that was given to me from the time that I had moved to St. Louis was a 12-passenger van. And then the house that we had purchased while we were together was clear out there. We were practically almost out of St. Louis.
Okay.
And so going back and forth to town, we were going through, and again, this is pre-COVID. And so, gas was a little bit cheaper back then.
Sure.
So at least $250 in gas a week. And, he would refuse to give gas money and refuse to do that. And so the financial strain that it would put on me.
Yeah.
And so at that point, later on, I started having reselling things just around the house. Cause I've got to find ways to just even pay for all this gas.
Right.
And even then, he would promise things like, I would say, well, the new baby would need clothes or shoes. And he would say, well, go ahead and buy that and I will reimburse you. And then would be like, oh, no, I'm not reimbursing you now.
Right.
Or
so it was put you on an allowance?
Well, no. So in the beginning, he had given me his debit card.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was there. And so if I needed to go to the store,
of course, buy what you need for the kids.
Absolutely. And then, as time went on, it was,
taking it away.
Yeah. Well, he took his card away after the cheating. And then, after that, it was even groceries. It was, he would either grab them or meet me there or, send just what was needed for the groceries. And even then, sometimes it didn't even cover it. So I would have to cover it. And so it was literally any way that he could find, to be able to take money from me. Because especially after I had decided that I was leaving, I was looking for ways to leave. And I think he realized that.
Well, of course he knew.
Yeah. And so I think
knew you were going to stick around.
Yeah. And so I think his goal was, let me keep her trapped. He even went as low as, when I would resell clothes, sometimes things would have a stain on it or whatnot. And so, I'd have a load of laundry going and he would destroy that load of laundry. And, it was crazy the ways, and it was almost diabolical the way that he was.
No, I believe you because I've seen bits and pieces of this in a relationship. So,
yeah.
And you're always just thinking like, what are you thinking? Why are you doing that?
No doubt.
Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But is this stuff to make you crazy, or
it is.
Yeah, to make you upset, not to have you in your clear mind so that you can't really do what you want to do, or make you feel worthless so you don't leave.
Some of the comments that I've gotten, they're like, how can you not see that this guy hated you so much and wanted you gone? And it's like, no, that's not what he was doing at all. He was doing all of this to get me to stay. Like, that's what is so messed up in all of it. They want you trapped. They want you controllable. They want you this way. He wanted his cake and he wanted to eat it too.
Right, exactly.
And it was almost like, if you decide you want to stay with me, I'll stop all of this abuse. Yeah. And it's like, no. And in some ways it was almost helpful for me because narcissists can be very charming and they can easily suck you back in. Yeah. And it was really, really helpful to see this continuation of behavior because it was a constant reminder of this is horrible. Like, I don't want to be with you.
Well, it's humiliating. Like, humiliating having to go and constantly ask for gas money. Basics. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, food, like clothing and food for yourself and your children. I mean, it is humiliating. Yeah. And it's sad.
So as I was watching your story unfold, I found myself being really grateful because some similarities that I was seeing, but therapy really helped me to, stay in the present moment and really, stay grounded in reality. So could you tell me a little bit about why did you actually start seeing a therapist in the first place?
So I started seeing one, it was probably around October of 2017. And by that point, we had moved into a house that I called Broke Down Palace because it was this huge house that needed a ton of renovations. And he had baited and switched me on, said that we were getting contractors. We had multiple contractors come in, give bids and quotes. And
you were doing all the work.
Yeah. And then he came back and was like, nope, sorry, we're going to do all of this ourselves. And that was just... complete chaos. And, so here I'm doing renovations on top of all this other stuff of taking the kids everywhere and running them back and forth to school and activities. And again, no housekeeper, no maids, no chefs, nothing. This is all falling on me. It's certainly
multitasking. You're a Capricorn, and so am I.
Yeah,
so I know that you can handle all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Even though it's exhausting.
Oh my gosh, incredibly exhausting and draining. And, and then to be constantly being told, you're not doing your end of the bargain. And, and it was starting to get kind of crazy making and not being told I'm loved. And because by this point it was about, 2 years or so into not being told that I'm loved and, and still no engagement. And, all of this stuff is just, it's so crazy. So around October 2017, I sought out a therapist and I'm so thankful I did because she was in place when I had discovered everything that I did. And she just really held my hand through all of it. And I will be forever grateful that I had that in place. And I saw her, goodness, it was probably about almost 2 years, or I guess a solid year and a half that I saw her. And I'll be forever grateful for her. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you have the time to really talk things out. Like you're hearing yourself saying it.
Definitely. Definitely.
And you don't even realize what you're really going through until you're speaking to someone, and you need that to keep you grounded when all this other crazy making is going on at home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she helped me in a lot of ways. She helped diagnose me as ADHD. And I didn't
even know.
Yeah. 38 at the time. She was like, I think you have this. And at first I was like, no. And she ran all these different tests and she was like, yeah, you've got ADHD. And I was like, wow. So that was kind of life-changing. And then she also helped diagnose him as a narcissist, and not just a narcissist, but a covert sociopathic narcissist.
I would add sadist to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he absolutely gained pleasure from seeing me hurt and sad and crying. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, punishing you.
Yeah, because she also saw him as well. And so, and she had seen text messages and emails and, she had this whole full story and scope of to be able to make that diagnosis. And so, yeah. And so, that was helpful to at least realize what I was dealing with. And it made a lot more sense. And especially like the sociopathy part of it all, because, I was able to really start to see like how he was pre-planning things.
Yes, exactly.
And
you were ahead of everything now.
Yeah.
Like you knew what was coming.
Yeah.
You knew how to handle it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, she was so instrumental in really keeping me grounded and sane. And especially during that period of after I'd found out about the cheating and was still stuck inside the home, it really helped me keep my sanity, because without that, I don't know if I would have been able to.
No, because he was actively working on trying to make you crazy.
Oh my gosh. And even like, it was so much. It was a lot. And I'm so grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you survived. You got out of it. Yeah. I know it's not easy.
No. No. So, yeah. So
their whole goal is to keep you trapped and keep you there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
While he does whatever he wants to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's not okay.
No.
So glad you found a really good therapist.
Yes.
It makes all the difference.
Yeah. So I highly recommend to anybody watching this that is in those situations, or, they're in the situation where things aren't feeling right, things aren't sitting right. And, find a therapist that you gel with that really, is seeing you and is getting you and you feel comfortable confiding in, because I don't know if I would have made it out. I feel like I made it out in one piece as much as I could have. Yeah. And I don't think that would have been possible without her.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You found that inner strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you needed.
Yeah. And being able to see the situation with such eyes wide open.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like they have you look at things in a different way that you're not, when you're caught up in the moment, you're not even understanding or even knowing that you're in a abusive relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And
things don't make sense. It doesn't make sense all the time when they're always so charming and nice and sweet, giving you gifts or like taking you out.
Absolutely.
And like, you have the nice side of it too. And it's like, oh, maybe they're not so bad.
Yeah. Cause that's how it would flux. He was doing this just most despicable behavior. Yes. And then it would be woven in with periods of niceness. And there were also times where he would try to get back together with me, or he would try to kiss me, or try to, love on me, and navigating that and keeping your sanity, because it was such a fine line to walk. Because I knew if I rebuffed him fully, that it would just turn into wrath. Oh yeah. And so just trying.
Did he have that narcissistic rage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
that's the scariest thing, when they're yelling at you and like spit's flying and their eyes are like bulging.
No doubt. And
you're like, you're calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they want you to be crazy.
Absolutely.
And go like right
Absolutely.
at them.
And so, and you're navigating all of this, and it's like you're in this like weird tiptoe, because you don't know what you're going to walk into that day.
And you're scared to death of like it happening.
Absolutely. And, there's also children in the house, and you're trying to shield and protect them as much as possible. And sometimes some of his rage, there were several incidences where it spilled out onto my children. And, and that's...
Yeah, it's hard to hide it from the kiddies.
It is. It did amaze me though, because my kids, there are certain things that they didn't realize had gone on and they were home. One thing that did help is the house was big. And so they would be in their room and just wouldn't know. And so as a mom, that guilt that you carry.
Of course, I know. I feel that. I know it.
Knowing that you had chosen this, and that, you can't fully, as much as you're trying to protect them, that you can't fully protect them.
Right. I know.
And and so that's hard.
But it's because you take ownership too.
Yeah.
Of that, and you're not just blaming everything on the other person. Because I do that for me too. I say I take ownership of it. I chose him.
I know I did. Yeah. Like
but I got out of it. But like it doesn't matter if we were fooled, Yeah. That wasn't who we fell in love with.
No, it wasn't. No. Yeah. And that's, I think.
You didn't, and you deserve so much better than that. And you're right. You look at your kids and like they deserve a better dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just a bigger male role model.
Yeah.
And, and there's so many weird aspects of that, because, you'd go out in public with him and, people would recognize him, and, your kids are there and can we get pictures? Can we get your autograph? And, you see this adoration towards him, and then you see the monster that's at home, and it's very weird for children to see that kind of thing as well. to see that dichotomy.
Yeah. And they don't want to see the bad kids. They want to just look at the good parts. And
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to go back and touch on, the person that I fell in love with. One of the biggest mind just fucks of everything is to realize like that person never existed. Never.
I know that's really hard to come to terms with the fact that. It really is. Yeah, that was just the mask,
I think that's the hardest realization. But I think people who are in these relationships, they need to truly realize that and grasp it because, I know for me, I held out so much hope. That person that I fell in love with is still there.
He's there somewhere. He's going to come out at some point.
But they don't exist.
If I can just love on him enough, it'll change things.
Yeah, I can be more me and we can go back. But they never existed.
Yeah, I thought that at one point too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sooner that people realize that isn't there, like that's not possible.
No, what you see is what you get. You need to look at what actually is happening.
Yeah. Like this is them. This is the real them.
I always say focus more on those bad times. That's who they truly are.
Yeah.
It's not the good times. That's always like pretending.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly. Yeah. And I was able to see that as well, as we would cycle through these, like the monster and then, the nice guy, he would be giving me gifts and, trying to woo me back. And it definitely helped with my therapist being able to see the patterns and whatnot and realize like, the monster is who he is.
So he was a gift giver.
I think gift giving for him is a form of manipulation.
Oh, for sure. I was going to say that.
Yeah, because there were times where gifts were highly manipulated. So, there was one time where he had given me a set of headphones to work out at the gym with my gym membership. And and he
the conditional gym membership.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm one of those people. I had already had headphones for the gym and I didn't feel like I needed a second set. And I was like, hey, I think I want to exchange that for something else. And instead he never gave me back those. He had returned it, taken that money, and my birthday is shortly after Christmas, and had used that money to buy my birthday present. And so that's
so stingy.
Well, it just and just
it's just another way of just saying like
you're not worthy and just
no, just fucking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because who does that? Like what sane, normal, decent person does that? And it just I did feel that it was definitely like a devaluation part of that where like you're not worthy of both presents. Like I told
you, he wants to dim the light.
Absolutely.
Your beautiful aura and your light, your sweetness, your kindness. They want to just take it all away.
Yeah, because they want you more controllable. They want you beaten down. They want this shell of you. And because you're more able to be manipulated. Yeah. And, and so there was another time where he had bought an iPad for me. And that quickly, when he realized that was not going to work on me, kept trying to steal it back. And at that point I had
like a big child.
Oh my gosh, it was insane. And so at that point, around that time period, I had been trying to get my real estate license because, like I was saying, I was trying to do anything and everything I could to try to find ways to be able to get out of this situation. And that was something that was flexible that I could try to work into my life and on my own terms. And so since he would always play around with the Wi-Fi. And I couldn't always use my computer and I couldn't do my course on my phone. The iPad ended up being my lifeline to be able to do my real estate course.
Oh, it had Wi-Fi on it.
Yeah. It had Wi-Fi and cellular service. And I think he quickly started to realize that I could use it in that way. And I was not going to let go of this iPad. It was a lifeline for me.
Right.
And so.
And he gave it to you. Why would you have to let go of it?
Yeah. He gave me an Apple Pencil. It has my name on it. Like it was just like, this is so silly.
How would he try to get the iPad back?
Oh my gosh. Any way he could. And so here I had, at this point, my second child had been born and she was just, a couple months old. And I literally had this iPad that I was guarding like it was a newborn child as well.
Sleeping with it.
Seriously. I mean, I literally like anything I could. And so there was one time where literally anybody who's been in a narcissistic relationship knows these crazy circular conversations that are nonsensical and they go on for hours and nothing gets accomplished. And it's just this inundation of just verbal and psychological and just emotional. Like it's just, you're just being inundated in such a crazy way. It was during one of these sessions and he was trying to find my iPad, but I had wedged it underneath my mattress and I was sitting on it. On the iPad. And he got to the point where he just started destroying my room. Because at that point, obviously, once I found out about the cheating, I had my own bedroom, but just tearing my room apart, even got my 3-year-old child in on helping tear up the room, like making a game of it, which like
and you were sitting on it the whole time.
Yeah, it breaks my heart that my son, you know, because I have
that's not okay.
This all on video. And I shared it on TikTok, bits and pieces of that conversation and of him destroying the room and whatnot. But just, you know, just rage that he was trying to find this iPad. But yeah, I was sitting on it the whole time and we were trapped.
Well, that's major control. Like he didn't want you bettering your life.
Absolutely.
You know, so you were.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was just crazy. And then there was another time where, you know, I had the baby in one arm and the iPad in the other, and he came over and just was like aggressively pulling it from me.
This darn iPad.
Oh my gosh.
So obsessed with it.
It was crazy. And then tossed it across the room. And this was after
he saw your iPad as your way out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it was just all about control. I mean, I think that's really what it was about.
Just scary
in all aspects. Yeah, it was scary. And so at that point, I had called the police and I was like, I'm just done. You know, you get to a point where it might sound minor to call cops on such an incident like that. But I mean,
you knew the bigger picture.
Oh my gosh. Well, he'd already destroyed my room. Like, you know, and again, this is so psychological abusey. Like it just... I just had enough. Like that was just such a breaking point for me. And obviously the cops came and they were like, you know, he's clearly being a jerk. You need to leave at some point because this is not good for you. But like we can't do anything.
Yeah.
But the good thing is he stopped with the iPad after that. And I don't know if he realized that I mean business. Yeah. Saw that I'm in business and that was kind of the end of that. I still always babied the iPad though. It was still like right by me just in case.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's the thing with you. You were really, really, really smart because you also kept receipts.
I did. And kind of started with my therapist. One, I am a digital pack rat. So, you know, we all have things where, you know, your boyfriend might send you over something crazy and you screenshot it and you send it to your friend. Like I'm horrible about cleaning that stuff out. So I had,
you had everything.
So I had like this whole record of just craziness anyway. When his behavior became so horrible after the cheating, my therapist urged me to start writing down what was going on. We had hit a period of hysterical bonding, and we can go into that in a little bit. But, you know, she encouraged me to write it down and to read these things. And so starting from that point forward, I started doing, it was pretty much a daily log of kind of what was going on in the house, his behaviors towards me, you know, even things that I had found, starting about, I don't know, 3 months after that, I realized I need to start protecting myself financially. And when he would go out of town, I would start snooping around the house, trying to find anything I could, because I was shut out completely financially. Like I didn't know what was going on. He had multiple businesses. He had so many different things going on. And I was like, I have to start getting records of this because I know whenever I am able to leave, that all of this stuff is going to be super helpful for me to kind of figure out what is what for child support and whatnot. And so I started documenting all of that and taking pictures and I sent it to an email account that he didn't know about.
Okay, good.
And then also to a couple trusted people that,
these are really good points here.
Yeah, it's important.
Documenting, sending it to friends, trusted people.
Having a backup, because if he got to my account, you know, I needed to make sure that I still had this information. So it was
so I guess that wasn't on your iPad.
Well, I guess it was, but yeah. So, but that way, if he couldn't go in and delete things and, you know, and catch on to what I was doing, you know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, that I was safe. and making.
He also didn't think that you were that smart.
He didn't.
No.
He had no clue what I know, what I knew. And I don't even think to this day he knows what all I know, which is probably good. But
you were good about not talking about it.
I did not say a word.
Just keeping the files, documenting everything, and not saying anything.
In my discovery process, it really, that sociopathy really started to highlight itself. And it was helpful because, again, I was keeping this daily log. And so, I would find things, old plane tickets and whatnot. And so I would go back and I would look at my notes and, he would say, I'm going to say Phoenix and, he's out in Vegas. And so then
he wouldn't even tell you where exactly he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so I would make a note that this is actually where he was and not, but it was crazy to see too, how proficient of a liar he was.
He was good. Yeah. He thought he was good.
Oh my gosh. Well, just insane how good he was because again, I would take it at face value.
Master manipulator.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that was very wild to see, but
he's got to be good. He's juggling probably like 3, 4, or 5 women.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I can't even imagine. And I will never, ever know the scope of exactly what was what. Know. Yeah.
I'm sure it's worse than you.
And I probably don't want to know, to be completely honest, because what I do know is horrible and it's disgusting.
Something's completely off with this one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And to know that he was doing it all unprotected as well was just, adds an extra layer.
Putting women's lives at risk.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, didn't even care.
Did not care at all. But so the documentation is, it still continues to be a lifeline for me. Good. Because unfortunately this is still ongoing. There's still financial abuse at play. And when I left, I knew of 20 businesses. I had 20 businesses.
And he was asking you to pay a plane ticket for him.
Absolutely. And, had all these kinds of crazy plans. He was trying, because Missouri was going to be legalizing marijuana. And so he was trying to turn his farm into a pot farm. And so, I had found all of those plans. And again,
and you didn't even know.
Had no clue any of this was going on. And, all of his stocks and bonds and all of his, that portfolio and his taxes, and found out that there was foreign income and foreign banking going on, and just the amount of things. And so especially on today, he keeps trying to lowball, and it's like, no, and refusing to turn over information that I know is out there.
Typical.
And so, I'm like, no, I know you have X, Y, and Z. Like you need to provide these documents. And so it's just an ongoing process. But had I not had that,
right,
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. And so it's so important for women because we're often, we don't have a seat at the financial table in these relationships. They've effectively cut you out. Even if you did at the beginning, you slowly but surely are going to be cut out of that picture. You have to be smart and you have to arm yourself. And it felt empowering at the time. In a powerless situation, it helped me feel empowered gathering this, because I knew at some point I would be helping my future self.
Yeah, exactly. You are. Better understanding, and for your children too.
Absolutely.
Because they deserve that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. They deserve everything that their other siblings are getting. And that's what I will fight for. So
good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been so honest and vulnerable through your whole series. I wanted to talk about part 14.
Yeah.
You highlight a nuanced aspect of navigating a relationship after cheating comes to light. Hysterical bonding.
Yes.
It's a new term I haven't heard of. So can you explain what that is?
Yeah. Well, it was new to me because I didn't even realize that it was even a thing.
Yeah.
And like I had said, when I found out about that initial round of cheating, I was just completely done. And then about a month later, he had come to me and, because I kept asking, like, who is this other person? Right. Who is this other person? And he brought me into his bedroom and said, going to be a big brother, my son. And my world stopped. Ugh. Because cheating is one thing, but dealing with a child, knowing that my children are going to have to deal with this the rest of their life, is so painful. And that day, I didn't sleep that night. I cried. I mean, literally for like 24 hours, I was just gutted. gutted. And then a couple days later, it was the weirdest thing ever. Like I started to feel like I wanted to be close to him.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be near him and comforted. And it's like your mind is so torn because you know, like this person is so horrible and so awful.
Right.
You know what they've done is horrible and awful. They don't deserve you. They don't deserve your time. They don't deserve your touch. They don't deserve any of you. But you're craving this person on such like it's almost like this animalistic primal urge. And I don't know for me if it was because there's a baby.
Yeah.
I don't know that it triggered like this almost like a lion.
Right.
Like I feel like I need to protect my family from this outside threat. I don't know if it was that, but yeah, I suddenly felt just this urge to be with him. And that's one reason why my therapist was urging me to write things down.
Right.
Because you know, his behavior was truly, while this was going on, you know, I'm feeling these things. His behavior is so bad towards me. Like it's just truly vile and disgusting behavior.
Yeah, exactly. But I can understand, like you're saying, it's called hysterical bonding, but is it the same as like trauma bonding? Because I went through that because you must have been really in love with him. Yeah. Because I went through a relationship with a narcissist that I was super in love with. Yeah. And also did crazy making stuff and did horrible things, like constantly checking people out every time he was with me, making me feel like I was worthless. And I went through a period where I had left him, and then for some reason, I still wanted to be around him. Yeah. You know, even though he wasn't good, he made me feel like shit. And I hated being around. I hated his behaviors. Yeah, he never made me feel good. Yeah. But there was a time where I just wanted to be around him, like just to get that little bit of love that, you know, I wasn't getting. So I can. Yeah,
that validation.
Yeah. My therapist said it was like I was trauma bonded to him in some way.
Yeah. And I definitely think that there was a trauma bond. To me, going through hysterical bonding, it was almost like trauma bond with gasoline poured on it.
I could see that.
Yeah. That's probably the best way that I could describe what the hysterical bonding was like. Because, you definitely do have that like urge. And I would say like I definitely was trauma bonded to him as well. But that hysterical bonding was just... Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you were at your lowest point though. You didn't know what to do, how to get out there. And it was like, you just wanted like,
oh my gosh,
maybe something to shift. Right. But I can get that because you're so like, that's what the psychological abuse has been for years. Yeah. Like, you don't even really know what's good, bad.
I mean, that to me was like top tier psychological warfare.
You were at the height of it there.
It was so bad. And and we ended up having sex a couple times. And then the shame that you deal with. And it is, I mean, awful. Like I can't even like express like how just gross I felt afterwards. And there were times like after we had sex, like I just cried afterwards. And then he would have the nerve to say I was killing things in the bedroom. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like,
your crying is killing things, like not his behavior. Yeah, of all the things that he's done.
Yeah, like this is horrific for me, and here I am. Yeah, thank you, but you know, I should even be having sex with you anyway.
Exactly.
And like I'm killing things in the bedroom, and you just the amount of shame that you feel in that situation is. It's horrible.
No, it's horrible. Yeah.
And so I started Googling because I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like this cannot be normal because it felt so, I mean, just even then I knew it wasn't right, but I also felt like I couldn't help myself. It's so, it's truly the most bizarre thing. And I truly think I lost my mind.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
That's, I mean,
you didn't know what was right, wrong, good, bad. No.
Yeah, I've never felt like that in my life, but I truly feel like in that moment, like temporary insanity, call it what you want.
All the compounded years of abuse.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And I don't know if it was the extreme stress of all of that situation, but because you know, obviously we had, at that point, my son was 2.5 and I'd always done kind of natural family planning. Right. And I was actually out of town. I had to go back down to Florida and during my fertile window and came back and I ended up getting pregnant. And that was devastating. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so thankful I have her. Yeah. But,
yeah, but to know that you have to go through that.
Yeah, it was.
you're not already taking care of the other one. So I know, because that's how I was exactly in that same position when I had 2 kids and then I found out I was pregnant. And I'm so glad I have him. But I remember it was like the worst time of my life.
Yeah. And I think too,
the worst timing. Yeah.
You know, being pregnant and going through the worst time of your life, you take that situation and you're making it that much harder on yourself. And, it was so hard. I hated going places because even simple questions, people just be like innocently, you know, hey, how are you doing? And I just would start bawling.
Yeah.
And I hated it, you know, and it was embarrassing. And I remember going into my therapist office, and I mean, on all those sessions, I would sit there and just cry and cry. And I was like, I can't wait to have this baby just to stop crying.
Right,
like, I just, you know, I know that this is a lot, but like, I just can't wait to stop crying. Because it was so emotionally hard. And then, you know, to deal with this, another woman pregnant with that child's father as well. Like it just, it's so messy. And then all of that was so weaponized towards me. Right. You know, he made it seem like so much love and care was going towards her. And here I was getting so much shit. And I have no clue what care was given to her, but there was just, you know, what was expressed and stated to me, like her well-being was priority. Right. And that was so hard, you know, just to feel so low. I don't think I've ever felt that low in my life. It was so bad. And I understand. Yeah. And his behavior during that time period, like I said, it was just, you know, trying to beat me into submission without putting hands on me. And, you know, you're going through all of this stuff. And I told him, I said, look, you know, if you cannot be nicer to me, like I cannot emotionally handle you in this delivery room. Like I can't, like you're going to have to get it together, or like that's what's going to happen. Right. And so it was, I don't know, a month, 3 weeks, something in that time range before I had her. And I was still teetering because I didn't want to make that call. Like I don't want my baby's father to not be there. You know what I mean? It's such a significant thing. And, and I was out in the garage and I was organizing and just packing up, and, you know, because after you have a baby, it's harder to do that kind of stuff. And he had come out and was asking me what I was doing. And I told him, and he had texted me and was like, this is your 30-day notice to move out. And I'm like, wow.
And you were pregnant?
I was still pregnant, and I was due in like 3 weeks. And
where are you supposed to go?
Well, absolutely. And I said, how dare you? Like, you are a monster. Like, how do you do this? Like, so I said at that point, like, that was my final straw. Like, you cannot do that to me. I will not let you in. And so my next appointment with my OB, we made a plan, a safety plan for me. And, you know, it was written in my chart that he was not to come in. And so, and that was probably one of the hardest decisions that I've ever made in my life. But I want women to know that you have to do what's best for you. You have to do what's right for your well-being, especially in that situation. Because, like, I can't imagine having gone through that and had him in there. Like, I can't. And to this day, I do not regret that at all. At all.
That was the right decision.
Yeah. I agree.
It's not an easy one, I know.
No. Yeah. It was seriously probably one of the hardest ones I've ever made.
Yeah. I'm crying because I had 2 horrible births because, you know, the dad was in the room and
it's horrible. Like,
because when you're birthing, you need that safe space. And feel good, and someone who's there caring for you and stuff. So you made the right decision.
Yeah, it's so hard.
I know.
Like so difficult. And yeah. And I think what made it worse, like when I look back and, you know, when the other lady had her baby, you know, how supportive
he was there.
He was there.
Supportive and
he's, and again, I don't know what the reality of that looks like. But how it was relayed to me, again, just, you know, all of this care and just, you know, that was hard. She was absolutely weaponized to me as well.
Triangulation.
Yes. Triangulation. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is devastating.
It really is. And especially when there is cheating involved and when there is that level, because he had certainly tried to triangulate me with his ex-wife over certain things, but it didn't feel the way that situation felt.
You're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
But so much resilience and strength comes from it.
Yeah.
I really feel like women find their power after they're at their lowest point.
Oh, no doubt.
You're at their lowest point. Like, you're not going to fuck with me anymore.
No.
You know, that hurts, seeing him giving so much care to the other woman. You deserve that.
Yeah. Strong women are forged in fire.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Strong women are forged in fire.
Yes. And it's so true.
Yeah. And you hate that you have to go through
No, I went through that. I'm pregnant. That's like really the hardest time in my life was being pregnant with my third baby.
Yeah.
And doing all that alone. Yeah.
I mean, because you really are. You're doing it alone and not having that emotional support from the person you needed the most.
No.
It's so devastating. Yeah, it's really, really hard. I'm just so thankful I had my therapist.
It's so funny because I'm so thankful I have my therapist.
Yeah.
That I've been with for like 8 or 9 months now.
Yeah.
And I go once or twice a week. And it's like, I need it.
Therapy is just, it is such a gift that you can give yourself, and especially in these situations. And I know sometimes it's hard for women to have access to a therapist. And I'm thankful that I was able to, because I'm still on his insurance.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, it's a really big deal. So if you can, I mean, it's just, you know, even if you have to go get on Medicaid, whatever you have to do.
The healing process is really powerful through the right therapist.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to this unique experience of going viral on TikTok. Did you expect your story to go viral? What were you expecting when you had put it out there?
Yeah, I didn't know if it would go viral per se. I did know with the, you know, who the F did I almost marry NFL edition. I knew that was catchy.
Great title.
Yeah. I knew that there would be interest
of course,
in that aspect. You know, I don't know if I expected it to go viral.
But you kind of want it to, just so awareness is out there too. And that's it also helps others.
Yeah, that's certainly why I did it is, you know, it's not lost on me that this happened to me and that I had gained so much strength from having gone through this. And I felt that I was in a place where I felt healed enough that I could withstand criticism, because it is the internet and people are always going to have things to say. So I knew that when it came time for me to tell, because I always knew that I was going to tell my story at some point, that I wanted to be healed to where the comments wouldn't have much of an effect on me.
And that's important.
Yeah. And there's very few that do. And generally the ones that do are aimed at women as a collective, because and it's kind of strange, but I don't know if it's like the mother bear in me, but like, say what you want to me, but how dare you tell that to another woman?
Right.
And so I feel protective over the people who come in, and especially you know, on part 14 with the hysterical bonding, where that comment section is so special to me.
Oh yeah.
Because hands down, that episode was the hardest one for me to film, because it took so much vulnerability to put that out there, because it's so shame inducing. And it's something that I had held on to as shameful. And the women that came in the comments and were like, girl, this happened to me too. And there was so much healing in that comment section. You know, people who were like, this happened to me 10 years ago. And, you know, I have carried the shame for 10 years. And seeing this and realizing that I wasn't alone helped me release the shame. And I will say, everybody who made those kinds of comments helped me release my own shame. And, you know, when somebody comes in and, you know, is saying, you know, you guys should just have more respect. You guys are lacking self-respect. And it's, to me, it was just, how dare you? Yeah. Because that has nothing to do with the lack of self-respect. It's just, it's literally temporary insanity. You cannot control it. And then the
need
guilt
for love, you know,
absolutely,
any which way you can get it.
Yeah. And that guilt and the shame. And, you know, so I, you know, when there's those kinds of comments aimed at the collective, I feel very protective, because I'm so proud of those people who were brave themselves and to leave a comment, because we see our friends' comments on other people's stuff, and to put themselves out and to be brave. And, you know, I really appreciated that. And
yeah, it's validating too.
It really is.
Yeah, to know, wait a second, like you have a lot of shame about putting that out there, but then it's like, wait, so many others, like thousands are going through the same thing.
Yeah, so many. And, you know, and even the gross comments, I mean, because there's always comments.
Yeah, I know, always the trolls.
Yeah. And, you know, I've been really proud of myself because, you know, I felt pretty healed, but you don't know until you are in that space and in that situation exactly how it's going to land. And it didn't land. It just was like, okay, you know, and even I've had a couple of videos that have triggered the men, and
the men are the funniest.
Oh my gosh,
get so triggered,
and they will say the most insane comments, and I think a lot of it they are taking their situations or their preconceived ideas.
They're projecting.
Absolutely, projecting is the perfect word for it. And I mean, I laugh at a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, because they're so out in left field, and it's like, oh my gosh. And
same here. I don't really get triggered by them. I just kind of like write something funny back.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because I'm not going to engage with it. It's like
it's so funny, and especially some of my later ones on child support and whatnot, and some of the ongoing financial abuse that I've gotten.
Because it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous.
Oh, it really is, you know, and it's like, you know, they're thinking I'm expecting to have like, you know, tens of thousands of dollars a month in child support. And it's like, my state has a $3,000 cap. Like, you guys look stupid.
Yeah, like, exactly. Do some research.
Yeah. Knowing that I am helping people because I get messages or I get comments, and, you know, and that's exactly why I did it. And those comments, even if I don't have the time sometime, or I remember because of my ADHD to go back and go back and comment. But I'm so touched by those. They bring tears to my eyes, and it just reinforces how important and how needed it is. And even with the crappy men who are chiming in, to me, it just shows how much work needs to be done in this space, because there are so many,
I think.
Yeah, there are so many women who are clearly dealing with toxic and misogynistic men, people who comment, well, why are you putting this out there? And it's like, clearly it needs to be voiced, and it needs to be shared, because when we keep this silent, it just helps abusers abuse. The more we know and the more we educate, the better off we are all going to be as a whole, as women. It does break my heart when I see women having a misogynistic point of view, because they don't realize how much harm they're doing to themselves and women as a whole. Because if we band together, you know, especially on topics like child support, well, I got zero. So you should just be thankful for the scraps he's giving you right now. And it's like, no, like,
sorry.
Yeah, if we band together, we're so much better off than putting each other down.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe if he had nothing, but if he has 20 businesses and he's doing all this stuff.
Absolutely.
No, your kids deserve, you know, to be taken care of properly.
Absolutely.
So
it's not about,
you keep fighting for that.
Yeah. It's not about, you know, women with their lifestyle. And and what gets me is because currently he's been giving me $250 a month in child support. And, you know, the amount of men who are like, get a job. And it's like, who do you think's been supporting the kids for the last, I would say, 5 years?
Right,
Who do you think's been supporting the kids? It's all been falling on me. I'm not living large on his $250.
Right.
I promise.
Exactly. You know, you
That's
can't.
a drop in my kid's bucket. Like,
that's like a dinner out for him.
Seriously. Yeah. Just crazy. So it makes me laugh when that kind of stuff comes through, because it's just like, what?
You're always going to have people that are just projecting whatever they're feeling inside.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so
there's a lot of unhealed people out there, and it makes me sad, because they should go get a therapist.
Yeah. I know. Like, we're doing the work here.
I know. Absolutely. You go do the work too. We'd all be better off collectively.
Yes. So how are you and your family doing today?
We're actually doing really, really well. We're doing very, very well. So, you know, I was very concerned with my older children and how they were going to process it, because, you know, they were at such crucial ages, going through and seeing it. And they're all doing so well, and I'm so proud of them. You know, they've had their own therapist, and you know, there has been some measure of healing, but I'm just so proud of them, and the people that they are. And, you know, and I don't want to say this lightly, but sometimes when you see how horrible people can be, sometimes those are gifts as well to your children. You know, my son, my oldest son, he knows how not to treat women.
Right, exactly.
You know, my girls see what not to choose.
Right.
And, you know, there are important lessons for them to learn in it as well. You know, I hate as a mom that they've had those experiences.
Right.
Like, you know, that it's definitely shame inducing.
Right.
But I'm just so thankful in how they've handled it and how they're doing. And
they just want to support you.
Yeah, they're just amazing people.
Yeah.
And even my little guys, you know, especially for them, since this is their father and whatnot, and they're so oblivious to all of this. They have no clue any of this is going on. And unfortunately, my children will never be able to escape what he's done. There's a child 6 months older than my youngest. Their dad married his new wife on my birthday in January. Like, my kids will never be able to escape this. They're going to need therapy, you know, and this is not, you know, me sharing my story is not about trying to alienate him, you know. I always encourage
you have
them.
the right to tell your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's your story.
Absolutely. Yeah, this isn't about me alienating them. I want them to love their dad.
Right.
You know, so there will absolutely be some therapy with them.
Yeah, people have to realize there's always like a separate relationship that they're going to have with their dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I want him to have that relationship with them.
Of course you do.
You know, I hope that it's happy and I hope that it's healthy. I have my concerns. Because of what I see with the other kids, but my kids will have to have therapy and have to be able to walk through this. At some time, it's going to click. Wow, dad clearly did some things to mom. Yeah. And they're going to have to deal with that. And like I said, we're going to have some therapy and some hand holding and discussing it in really healthy ways and processing that. So hopefully they can move forward with their dad. One of my hopes in releasing this was that he would be better. That, you know, even though, and that's probably just me being naive, right? Yeah. But because I know that he does have that good side and, you know, that he would actually start to do the work himself and actually go to therapy and actually heal and be better and do better. And, you know, and I still hold hope for that because I hope that I can look my kids in the face and say, you know what? There were some bad things, but you know what? Dad's done better and dad can be better and he is doing better. And that's my biggest hope in all of this.
Yeah, true. Anybody can change.
Absolutely. And I don't know if it's possible.
Not very likely with this one.
I know. Yeah.
But you never know. You never know.
I'm an eternal optimist. That's, you know, it's a blessing and a curse for me, but that's my ultimate hope for my kids is that their dad can do better, be better. And, you know, because we've all done things that we're not proud about in our lives. And, you know, but what we can hope is that we learn those lessons and that we became better people for it. And
we all have that power within us to change. Absolutely.
And that's my wish for him and my kids.
Oh, I like that. When you hear the powerful statement from now on, how would you end that sentence?
Oh, goodness. From now on, I would pay attention to red flags and see them for exactly what they are and not reason them, not have hopes attached to those red flags.
Oh, gosh.
To just see them in their blazing glory and recognize, yep, that's a flag and I need to get the heck out of Dodge.
Oh, yeah. Those red flags would have saved us in the beginning if you just paid attention to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they were there. Yeah. And, you know, again, I'm an eternal optimist and I'm a good person. And one of my biggest weaknesses in life is operating and moving around in life as if other people have my heart. And I've had many painful lessons in that because it doesn't happen. No. And I've been burned many times. And unfortunately I got burned in this situation.
Yeah. Good hearts always get burned.
They really do. They really do. So
Till we learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think for those with good hearts and good intentions, it's especially important for us to see those red flags because we're the ones who are just going to burn at the end.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Nope.
Not anymore.
Nope. Where
can people find you?
Oh, goodness.
What's the TikTok?
Yeah. So my handles are the same on all platforms. So it's Tori Darling Life. So that makes it easy.
Yeah. Tori Darling Life.
Yes.
Love it.
And it's Tori Tori because people try to add in a bunch of extra stuff.
I love that so many people are sharing on TikTok. that's where we found you.
Yeah. And it's my very favorite platform. I love the realness of it. And, you know, because there are so many shared experiences that we have with so many other people. And even funny things, like people, just childhood things that people did. And people are like, wow, did we all have the same childhood? And it's it's so fun. Yeah. And it's so nice to know that you aren't alone. And I love that there is that space for us today. Absolutely. That we can go there and we can share and we can, you know, collaborate and know that we're not alone. Yeah. It's important stuff. So I love TikTok. I hope it doesn't go away.
I know. Yeah. You're good on it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing your story. It's been very powerful.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me on and all the work that you guys are doing, because it's important for survivors of, you know, whatever it came from, whatever abuse that they've endured, to know that we're not alone.
Oh, sure. And if you're watching or listening at home, look out for those red flags.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
This is From Now On. I'm Lisa Phillips. Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered, and remember, there is strength in speaking out. Special thanks to our courageous guest, Tori Darling. Elizabeth Wyndham is our senior producer. Christopher Leone is the editor. Corey Wynn is our director of photography. And Jose Oriana is our studio producer. Our theme music is Many Worlds by Memory Theory. If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories about your own views on topics discussed on From Now On, email us at fromnowonpod@gmail.com. And please follow, rate, comment, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If today's conversation resonated with you and you are seeking more support in your own healing journey, if you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, help is available. Call 800-656-HOPE. If you or someone you know is being trafficked, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Text 233-733. That's Be Free. PAVE is a 501c3 nonprofit creating a world free from sexual violence and building communities to support survivors. To learn more, go to shatteringthesilence.org. Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, SOAR, is dedicated to providing a safe and empowering space for survivors of sex trafficking to reclaim their stories and stand up for themselves and each other. That's www.speakoutactreclaim.org.